Welcome to Storyteller, a profile series highlighting the dreams, journeys, and achievements of our students, alumni, and supporters, presented by Doyon Foundation. Van Guinzi, everyone, we're very happy to have you here with us today and to hear from our guest this morning, Anna Clock. And we'd like to say welcome. Would you like to share introductions or something about yourself?
Anna Masi, Anna Clock sa uza, de hunda nakahelte nila Torah sisni. Gashta hut an Islam, madzich tuchit Anna. Denaakk'e hedo daraa. Hi, I'm Anna Clock. My Denaakk'e name is Nila Torah. My family is from Caltag, and we're Caribou Clan, and I'm learning Denaakk'e.
Great, awesome. So tell us about your educational journey. You've graduated with a certificate in teaching Alaska Native languages at UAS. And so why did you choose that field of study?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's been such a long journey. I basically graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2009 from Middlebury College. And at that time, I already loved languages, and I graduated with a BA in Japanese. And then the recession hit from the subprime housing loan crash. I went into the service industry. I worked on boats. And so I kind of took this maybe like 8-year journey of just paying off my student loans, kind of establishing myself in the maritime industry, and eventually came around to going back to school. So even though I had a bachelor's degree, when I turned 30, I moved to Juneau. And let's see, that was 2017. And I enrolled in the outdoor studies certificate program on the condition that I could also study Lingit, in the Alaska Native Studies program. And so even though I'm not heritage Lingit, that kind of set me off on this. So far, it's been a 5-year journey of learning Lingit and then eventually studying to become a teacher. So the certificate program at UAS is really awesome. It's new. It's a 1-year teaching certificate in teaching Indigenous languages. So the designers of the program had an overarching goal for this certificate to be applicable to any native language, kind of infusing pedagogy and methodologies that uplift who we are as Native people and that relate to the way that we learned from our grandparents and our parents and our aunties and uncles. So yeah, so now I teach Lingit. I graduated this spring and did a summer internship. I worked briefly at Hayukatangi Kuddi, which is Lingit for our language nest. And now I teach 3 classes a week.
Wow, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any similarities between Lingit and Denaakk'e?
Kind of. I'm still learning Denaakk'e. I would say I've learned more Lingit than I have Denaakk'e so far. But something I learned in my studies is that both Lingit and Denaakk'e belong to the Na-Dene language family. And so what that means is that there's a lot of similarities in grammar in terms of you'll have a verb root that has a specific meaning, and then a string of prefixes that give it more specific meaning. And from what I understand, I still want to take that class at UAF for Athabascan grammar, but I think the grammar and the way verbs work are pretty similar.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
noticed that too when I was living in Southeast. I would pick up on some of their words, like for rabbit, gach. It's very almost the same word.
Yeah, it is. And Denaakk'e too.
And then also the word for land in Tlingit, they say on, and we say none. you can kind of see a similarity there. I think it's Nen and Denaakk'e, but the I think there's you could see that there is relationship between the languages and the history there. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's loan words too. So in Lingit, they refer to caribou as watsich. And I think that's a loan word from Athabascan languages. So
Yeah,
Lower Yukon, Denaakk'e would be medzich, and it sounds pretty
yeah.
similar. Yeah.
Which end we say Vatzai. So yeah, it
Oh,
is
cool.
definitely a cognate. I think so.
Hmm.
So when and how did you first become involved with the native languages in the Doyon region?
Yeah, I would say my first exposure to Denaakk'e was probably in my early 20s. Well, that's not true. Ever since I was little, my dad would say this to me. If I made a mistake, he would say, Miss Ni'ihu. And that means I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. So that's always been a joke between us because he loves to say that to me in my learning moments. But when I went to Caltech for my Uncle Mike's stick dance in gosh, when was that? 2012. Um, I started learning our songs at the potlatch. And that was my first time kind of reading along. We had printed song lyrics and trying to make the sounds and make that association. And more formally, I would say in 2019, the spring of 2019, Katlia sent me an email about Doyon Foundation's teacher education program. And I was so grateful because I was just hungry for learning our language at that time. And here they came out with this program to fund so many contractors to basically learn how to teach. And what I loved about that program was that it helped us break out of our boxes between I'm a student and I'm a teacher, which I think I grew up with a pretty rigid, parameter for my idea of what role. And so what I liked about that is that even though I was a beginning Denaakk'e learner, they taught me how to host my own language learning circle. And it was all about community learning, how to learn together and host a space where people feel comfortable putting themselves out there and learning. So
Yeah,
that was huge. And then the other most important thing I learned during that training was how to do distance delivery. And it just so happened that COVID hit America and Alaska that same spring. And we had to transition to fully distance learning because of that. And for me, it was like, whoa, I couldn't be luckier that they're already teaching us how to, you know, host a space on Zoom. And then it just kind of turned into a seamless thing. So yeah, that was huge for me.
yeah. I remember the post we shared about you and your brother learning, and I think that's how it happens. It's like it could be two people, it could be a small group, 3 or 4 people, but you know, those little pockets where our languages are learned and spoken and passed on. I think that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge lesson for me too. And that actually helped me kind of in my language studies with Lingit moving on from that was that don't let your idea of how big it needs to be, don't let that inhibit you and don't get in your own way. Because like with study groups, same thing. When I was in the scholarship program for Lingit, sometimes you just had to find one person that was willing to study with you and go through the process. How do you study an audio recording? How do you transcribe it? How do you translate it? And so, like, being comfortable with, okay, I'm going to meet with maybe just one person. We're going to call this a language class or a language lesson. That was really helpful too.
So since you've graduated, you said you moved up to Anchorage, left Juneau. What are you doing now in Anchorage?
Yeah, I had moved down to Juneau for the scholarship program, and I loved it so much, but I got so homesick because Juneau, you have to drive through another country or take a boat or a plane. So it was hard for me to be able to come back and see my family. And so, long story short, when my program ended, I decided it's time for me to go home. I had a new baby nephew that was born. So it was kind of scary because without really having any work lined up, and then knowing how expensive it is to move in and out of Juneau, I just booked a ferry ticket. I got on the waiting list, and when they told me it was open, I pulled the trigger on it because I just had a gut feeling I need to be closer to my family. I need to be closer to home. So anyway, I took the ferry across the Gulf to Whittier, landed in Whittier, drove to Anchorage, and had no job lined up. And I had interviewed for a job. I had some prospects, but I hadn't heard back from them. And then I got an email from the Central Council of Tlingit and Haida Indian Tribes of Alaska offering me a really good teaching job. And I said, can I do it from Anchorage? And they said, yeah, it's online, so you can teach from anywhere. So it just turned out to be like such a good job. And there's this really awesome Tlingit elder that lives in Anchorage named Shaksanikik, Shirley Kendall. And she's both a fluent birth speaker of Tlingit and a lifelong professional teacher. She retired from teaching Lingit at UAA. So anyway, Tlingit and Haida said that I could partner with her to co-teach the class. And so she and I get together weekly. We do our lesson planning. We teach the class together. We take care of all our logistics together, and we get to spend time together. So I love it because I learned so much from her, both language, how to teach, how to plan lessons, and then we get to spend that time together. So yeah, it's kind of a dream come true for me. It pays well, but it's not quite enough hours for me to foot all my bills for the month. So luckily, I also received an email from Hasha Mariah Twitchell at Gold Belt Heritage Foundation, also based in Juneau. And she said, we have needs for transcription and translation of videos. We need somebody to mentor our youth group and create some content. So I work for them. And then I have a third contract with another really awesome organization based in Juneau. And it's called Hatuch Lachish. And it works to support women and kind of create safe spaces for people who've, been in unfortunate situations. And so they fund a community class every Friday morning, and they make that instruction free and online and available to the public. So I feel really lucky that even having moved back to Anchorage, during the scholarship program, I got to do so much important networking and meet so many good people that collaborate on the language movement, that I'm able to work full time teaching and supporting the Tlingit language right now, which is it's just awesome.
Yeah, it's really great. You have this experienced teacher who's fluent in the language, and it's like being mentored. And I guess it also shows that a language teacher never retires.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always, drawn back into it, and it is very rewarding and fulfilling to be able to pass on these languages.
Mhm.
So, what other activities in the community do you enjoy?
I really wanted to join a gym because in Anchorage, the months of like October to December are pretty cold and dark, and it's not really like there's no snow on the ground yet, so you can't really ski or snowboard. So I wanted to join a gym, but I wanted to do something that was kind of like fun, whether it's a game or I'm learning a skill. And I ended up joining Rumble Boxing, and it's so much fun.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it. I never boxed before. But that's Rumble Boxing's whole thing is you can join with zero experience. You'll do your conditioning. You'll practice on a bag. You don't spar or anything like that. But I go there twice a week at 6 a.m. and they play like really fun music and it's kind of like club music and you practice your combos and you practice your punches. And I leave dripping sweat and just like feeling relaxed. I'm like, whoa, that was like a workout and therapy at the same time.
That's
So
awesome.
that's my new thing. I enjoy it a lot. It's a fun community and it's just like a fun way to work out.
That's great.
Yeah.
Like a whole body workout, uh,
Oh yeah.
cardio included.
Oh, definitely.
So, what's been your biggest challenge in your educational journey, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah. Um, I would say people got me through my biggest challenges and continue to get me through. When I first moved to Juneau, like I said, I was pretty lonely. It was like the middle of the pandemic, middle of the winter, and I took the ferry down in rough seas. So I got there tired and lonely and stuff. But I ran into Tony Malott, and I had known her previously from having worked in Byron Malott's office when he was lieutenant governor. And Tony totally took me under her wing. She was essentially my adopted host mom the whole time I was in Juneau. And I'm so grateful for her because I would be busy, just like nose to the grindstone, working morning through night sometimes. And if she didn't hear from me for like a week, she would just text me and be like, "Are you okay? Where are you?" And we lived 5 minutes down the road from each other. So it was just really nice. It was like she would invite me to her place and to her son's places for dinner, and they would just make me feel like family. And that was really special. I think that was like what got me through the hardest parts, probably.
Yeah, I remember when I moved to Juneau, I was the same way. I didn't know anyone there, and I was lucky to have lived with a family, Anita Lafferty from Huna, and her mom, Ida Kadashan, and her brothers and sisters would come by, and the whole family, they would cook almost every day. And it would be like hooligans one day, and
Mm.
uh, I forget the gumboots, like all these Lingit
Mm.
foods. They had seal, and I just got to try a lot of different things, and just yeah, you'll find too. There's those Athabascans that have found their way down there southeast. That connection is there.
Yeah, there's a lot of us. And it was just nice to have that home cooked meal and feel like you're home away from home.
So, do you expect to continue your education journey? Like, are there other plans for additional degrees?
Yeah, that's such a good question because actually, while I was in Juneau for the certificate program, I started working toward my master's during that time in rural development through UAF. And I really liked it and wanted to continue. Unfortunately, I had to pause it because I couldn't, at one of the semesters, I couldn't find a class that didn't conflict with my required classes for the scholarships. So anyway, that's why I kind of had to put a pause on my degree. I do want to earn a master's degree, but lately I've been trying to think creatively about how can I align, you know, it's a community need. People in a community want to learn their language, but I'm in a position now where I'm working on contract to support different language projects. And it's really fun, but it can be a little stressful because you need to be on top of it. You need to take care of your administrative tasks, and you need to get enough hours in to pay your bills. And so sometimes I wonder, like, how could I combine this with maybe another degree that meets another community need? I don't know, housing or um, behavioral health counseling, something like that. That's kind of late, or business management. I've been trying to think ahead about what kind of other graduate degree might helped me sustain my language teaching passion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely those connections to draw between language and wellness and healing, as well as the business aspect. I think that's important to learn about and be able to operate as tight ship.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, and the healing journey part has been essential to my language learning because you have to have self-esteem to learn language and to show up to spaces wanting to improve. And at some point, I found that to be a little bit of a barrier for me where I just wanted to show up looking like I knew the language. And if someone corrected me, maybe I didn't take it that well. And then I had to kind of rethink the way I was looking at it and being like, okay, I need to change something in my own habits, in the way I think and talk to myself, so that when I show up to these immersion spaces, I show up wanting to learn something and I'm like happy to receive criticism and feedback. And so that's just one small way out of the many ways that for me, my own personal healing journey, my own self-esteem journey has been important to my language path.
And so, through your educational journey, you've received support from Doyon Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And what has that support meant to you?
It meant a lot because the the scholarship that Alaska Heritage funded us is a full scholarship. So it covered our tuition, our school supplies, and as well as a housing stipend. And so that's a very generous scholarship. And that being said, you're still a student full time and you're still living on a tight budget. So for me to be able to reach out to Doyon Foundation, even though I wasn't working toward a Doyon region language, and have their support, for me, it just felt like, here, we're here for you. We're supporting your goal. And one of my long-term goals is to help, continue uplifting the positive relationships that have been made between the interior and southeast regions. And so for me, that was just a concrete, that was just like a very concrete way that Doyon Foundation contributed to that in my own development.
It's awesome.
So, yeah.
I too received support from Doyon Foundation. I might have been among the first scholarship recipients in 1989. I was in college at that point. And I also received support through my master's. And yeah, it means a lot. And especially when you're feeling isolated, you're far away, and it's that connection to home too. So
yeah.
Do you have any kind of words of advice or encouragement for students today, or those interested in learning or teaching native language?
Yeah, I think if you're young and you're thinking about learning and teaching native language, I would just say go for it, because when I started learning, I was a young adult. I knew that I loved languages. I had studied Spanish and Arabic and Japanese. But when I told people that were close to me, I'm thinking I want to do this full time. Like, I want to combine my passion for languages with my desire to give back to my community through native language revitalization. At that time, people would say, that's awesome, but how are you going to make a living doing that? And I'm just really grateful that Doyon Foundation, UAS, Khone, the Alaska Heritage Institute have created spaces where you can at least pay your bills while dedicating yourself to your language study. It doesn't necessarily have to be like something you do late at night that costs you a lot of money, that's after a long day of work. Like organizations such as yourselves are finding ways to integrate it into our workday and our daily life. And so I think the best thing youth can do is take advantage of that and just keep pursuing it and asking for the next level. I see young people today just that inspire me. They're comfortable talking about issues like blood quantum, about race and heritage dynamics. They're comfortable talking about social justice and work ethics and, all kinds of things that maybe my generation didn't feel comfortable or feel like we had the words. So I'm just inspired by youth today because a lot of them seem like they found their voice. And so I would just say keep going with it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a whole world there that opens up to you as you study the language and understand how our ancestors viewed the world and, you know, managed to, survive and thrive and be successful on the land. And I think a lot of that is embedded in our languages. It's really something to discover that.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite word, phrase, or quote you'd like to share? We'll
Yeah.
hopefully use this as a native word of the month.
Okay. I like words that make me practice them, that I have to practice for a long time before I can say it. And one of them was a Doyon Foundation. And in Denaakk'e, that means you all take care of yourselves. And I learned that during our spring training with Doyon Foundation. Um, and when I think I heard Etsu say it, but I had to like practice it on a walk. I couldn't just say it right away. So I remember being on a walk and doing it piece by piece. And I would have to do it rhythmically to get it. And I like words that are like that, that you kind of have to practice over and over again and slow way down. So I think that's my favorite Denaakk'e word that I know so far is Adagoy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I
Mm-hmm.
could hear the reflexive part in there where in which kind we would say atakanti or atakoti if it's one person or many people you're talking to, but the adda is like yourself. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, you're taking good care of yourself.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I want to get to that level. I'm still at a point in Denaakk'e learning where I start every language this way, where I just repeat phrases that I hear. But it's cool to, as I progress, start to be able to break down the parts.
Yeah,
So that's really cool to hear.
morphology. Each syllable has a different contribution to the whole meaning.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Um, just that I really love language learning. I love teaching language. And so that's where I'm at right now is like, okay, I can do this. I can pay the bills doing this full time, but how do I take it to the next level? And so it's really exciting for me and fun for me to have to think creatively about it. And I'm thinking of starting a vlog. I've never been a vlogger or a blogger, but I only have my students for 3 hours a week, and it's not enough for what I want to share as far as like how do you study, how do you, or if you want to become a language teacher, how do you do your lesson planning? So I like communities where they make this kind of knowledge just available to everybody. So yeah, I bought a vlogging camera. I'm gonna try making vlogs.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We are starting, Doyon Foundation is starting a grant called DLO in the Classroom, Doyon
Oh,
Languages Online in the Classroom. So now we've built this online platform for introductory courses. How do we use those in the classroom is what it's going to be about. And there's going to be a cohort of novice language teachers and getting exposure to theory and a little bit of practice in the classroom. And as a cohort, reflecting on how your teaching went and how you could do it differently next time. So be
yeah.
on the lookout for that opportunity. I'll be posting it soon.
Okay, good. I was just gonna say, where do I apply? This is
Yeah,
what I want. This is right up my alley.
we'd love to have you if you have your time in your schedule. But
I
yeah,
would
thank you.
make time. I would make time for it.
Buenos dias for your time
Uh,
today, and we appreciate hearing from you. And it's good to get update on where you're at.
Okay, anamasi. Thank you.
For more Storyteller profiles, visit doyonfoundation.com/storyteller.